Yo, good day, and welcome to another episode of Father's Fire. My name's Shorty Cedric, as you know, and every week we get together to explore the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And it has been a little fun the last week or two. Got three kids back in the house, and so we're moving. We had a big flood. So we're like pulling out carpet, repairing walls, and reinstalling stuff. And we're finally getting to the point that I feel like we're getting things back online.
Get back here.
Yes, so we are having fun. Looks like Tommy's having fun with his family. Look at that little daughter doing handstands. It's going to be awesome. But as you guys know, every week we try to get together and explore something about being a dad that hopefully ignites a fire within you to be a better husband, a better father, a better dad, and kind of learn and grow together. And Tommy was on the show a couple weeks ago, and man, we just had such a good show, good conversation that I'm like, we got to do round two. And if you haven't checked it out, the title of that show is Built to Be a Dad. And Tommy definitely is one of those guys that's built to be a dad. He loves being a dad, leaning in. So refresh everybody's minds, buddy. Tell everybody a little bit about your family.
So my name's Tommy Trenton, and been with my wife as of April 10th, 15 years married, 20 years together. Didn't make that date on purpose. Kind of just happened that way. So 20 years April 10th and 15 years married April 10th. It's kind of strange how that happened. But anyway,
That's crazy.
We got 4 kids and boy, girl, 17 down to 10. My son's about to graduate. He just did prom. So we're really excited about that. He just got his cap and gown in the mail today. So
that's fun, man.
Quit. Either get in the video and I give you some headphones.
That's so much fun. So if you guys, those of you that are listening to audio, Tommy's little daughter's running around doing handstands and trying to be a distraction so that she can be part of the show. She's welcome to be part of the show. I always love hanging out with my kids and other people's kids. So that's always good. So we wanted to circle back around because one of the things that we kind of touched on that I wanted to go deeper into was childhood trauma. You know,
yeah. This is a hot topic.
It is a hot topic, right? Because I think a lot of times we, especially as men, we have buried it so deep that we don't even realize that we've had childhood trauma, or we've pushed it aside so deeply that we don't even want to face it. We don't even want to admit that we had it. So let's go there. So how, if you had childhood trauma, what did that look like, and how did you work through it, especially as you became older?
What did it look like? It looked pretty bad. Like if you're asking what was it exactly? The first thing I don't remember. The first traumatizing thing I was too young to remember. And I was I'll just come out and say it. I was 1.5, and my dad had gotten an argument with my mom. They were married, and he ended up leaving, went to his buddy Rick Barron's house, and came back like, I don't know, a few hours later, and my mom wasn't there. Well, he left me there with her, and an hour or so had went by, and he's like, where the hell are they at? And she ended up coming in the house covered in blood. She had tried to kill herself, and 1.5. So that was it from there. They divorced. She kind of stayed away because she felt like she was toxic, and she felt like that would be better. So my dad ended up having full custody and raising me from then up until 12 years old when he got married, remarried. Thought she was awesome, wasn't awesome. Turned out to be a freaking psychopath. Yeah, I got stories about all kinds of stories about that. But back up a little bit with my dad raising me. He was tough. He was Southern tough. You don't listen, you get your ass beat. and
Yeah.
nothing crazy. Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't
Yeah.
like choke me out or punch me in the face or nothing like that. Just good old Southern whoopings
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
switch or a leather belt type of thing.
Yep.
Lot of yelling and cussing too.
Yeah.
He wasn't a drinker or drug user or nothing like that, like my mom was. And yeah, me and him were great all the way up until he got remarried.
Mm.
And so for many
So
years,
how
I didn't go ahead.
so how long of a time was that before he got remarried?
So from 1.5 to 12.
All right. So you basically had 11 years, just you and your dad,
Yeah, and
right?
the neighbors
And
and daycares and school and
yeah.
stuff like that. Right,
So,
also raising me.
so you had a community around your dad that was raising you.
Yep.
And then your dad's like a lot of men, you start feeling lonely, you want to share your life with somebody, and he brings a new lady into your life.
Yep. We
And
thought she was a lady.
okay, so let me ask you a question. Were you hopeful?
Yeah.
Were you excited
Yeah.
about that, or were you feeling displaced
No,
because all of
no,
a
because
sudden,
that was actually my friend David. So me and David met in daycare at a place called Place. And it was for after school daycare or whatever. For the parents get out of work, they come pick us up. And he became a close friend of mine. And he'd come to my house, I'd go to his house, and we were just like, you ever seen that movie where the kids are like where they hook the parents up? Babe, what's that movie where the kids hook the parents up? God, what's it called? This probably got the idea from this movie. Well, anyways, we hooked our parents up, and they ended up hitting it off. She was great. We'd go to Toys R Us. She'd spoil the hell out of me, and I definitely wasn't used to that. No, not Parent Swap.
Parent Trap?
Parent Trap. That's what it felt like. Yeah. No, she was good. I was definitely hopeful. There was no displacement, and she was never against me and my dad spending time together or nothing like that. I mean, like we did everything together. I'm his only child, and he only had two other friends, Danny and Rick. So it's not like he would just disappear and go hang out with his friends, and here I am with whoever. It was never like that. Everything he did, I was with him.
Yeah.
And but when our families got together, because she had 3 kids, my dad had me, everything was fine at first, and then it just wasn't. It was crazy. You know what I'm saying? So being raised by my dad was great. He's a baseball coach, 7 years. We practice every day. He was tougher on me than all the other kids in the sport. And all-stars 3 of the years. He was a good dad. He did his best. He lives with us now. I feel like I'm raising him.
Yeah. So were you? So obviously, there was this kind of good time with the new wife, and
Yeah.
things were going well. But as
It was
they
like a roller coaster, really. It
as
was
they
up and
started,
down.
as they started to deteriorate, how did you move through that? Because I think a lot of kids, when they're going through, a new mom, a new dad, one, they feel displaced, or two, they feel like they can't really connect, and the person that they were hoping is not the person that they got, and all of a sudden they're trapped in this relationship that they didn't choose, that their dad chose, and they're trying to be respectful to their dad. They're trying to be respectful, but at the same time, they're like, what the hell just happened to our family?
Yeah. Well, it was respectful at first for me. And then I started paying attention more in the way she'd treat my dad and stuff like that. And one time she was going batshit crazy and chased me down the hallway. And then I ran back at her with a bowl or something like. No, she threw a bowl at me, and I picked the bowl up and threw it back at her. And she went running into my dad's room, hitting my dad. And my dad just holding her like this. When I went in there, I saw it. And she's just trying to get loose and hit him or whatever. And she ended up calling the police and having us both arrested for domestic violence. So my dad went to jail for no reason. I went to jail because I threw a bowl at her. I went to juvie. I was like, shit. I don't even remember. 13, 14, something like that. And I'm not going to put up with nobody hitting me, throwing stuff at me. I don't give a shit who you are. And she had already been doing that. So it's not like the first time. This is an ongoing thing. Like she would be happy, and then all of a sudden she'd be extremely mean and nasty. And so I just said, this is the last time.
Yeah.
Is it right? No, it wasn't right. I could have reacted a different way, but what the hell am I supposed to do? I'm, 13 or 14 years old. I've never been in them shoes before. I've had my butt whooped, but I've never had a bowl thrown, like a big metal bowl thrown at me,
Yeah, there's a difference between discipline and abuse, right? And clearly that was sliding into the area of abuse. And I think,
Yeah. She was very
sadly,
verbally abusive, like more than she was physical. I think that's the only time she really got physical with either of us.
so, and I think a lot of times we discount verbal abuse. Oh, they're just being harsh. They're just being mean with their words. But man, dude, words can really cut to the core.
Yeah.
They can slay you open and make you feel so small, especially as a young child. And those words can ripple across your life for a long time, fueling you with doubt,
Yeah.
feelings of
Insecurity.
whether or not you're insecure, right?
Yeah.
Insecurity, self-worth, whether or not you're worthy of love. So how did you battle that? Was your dad able to offset that in a productive way, or did you have to kind of work through that on your own?
Honestly, I started smoking weed and drinking alcohol. I started hanging out with people on the street. That's what I did. I disappeared. And I would come home and I'd miss church, and it just started becoming more and more thing. And I got plenty of stories about all that, all the stuff that we got into back then and why. But I just got sick of it. And after so many fights and so much screaming and my stuff getting destroyed and all this stuff, she's like, he's got to go. He don't love you no more. Or he's not really your son because he don't give a shit about you. And she was very like I don't know what like condition to call what she was, but she was something. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like blame other people's for her reactions type of thing.
Right.
And but like kind of turn it around and make you believe that it's actually your fault type of thing. But so my dad was like, I guess he was being a smart ass. I don't know. I never really asked him, but he went and bought me a camper. And since she said I couldn't live in the house no more, I couldn't be there no more, he went and bought me a camper and moved it out to the side of the house. And I stayed out there for like 2 weeks until the last day when she came out there with a hammer when I'm inside of it and started beating all the way around it, punching holes in it with a hammer, like a roofing hammer. And I just stayed in there. I was listening to what was it? It was an Eminem album. Not very good influence. I was listening to an Eminem album that one of my friends gave me. And I just turned it up and stayed in there, basically. And then that's when my dad took me over to my sister's house like he would every other weekend. And on Sunday, when I went to call him to come get me, I hear her in the background screaming, he's not fucking coming back here, blah, blah, blah. If he comes back here, he's going to go to back to JVC or whatever the hell it's called, Juvenile Detention, JDC. Yeah, Juvenile Detention Center. And so my dad forced me to live with my sister, forced it on her and her fiance and me. So now I'm living in this weird situation. I have to, go to school in Tampa, in South Tampa, at Robinson High School in the ghetto, and definitely didn't feel good at all. And then 2 weeks later, that's when my mom killed herself. Literally, like 15 years old at this point. And and all in between that, from that point to when my dad first got with her, was just, I already don't give a shit, period. This is when I'm starting to like be ballsy and, not listen to nobody, and just didn't even have I really just didn't care, I guess. I don't know if I was hiding it that I cared, or I still had a good heart. I just, getting in fights in school and stealing and smoking weed and drinking 40s and just hanging out with whoever and just skip anything that matters in life. I had no goals. I had no reason for anything but to be just there, basically. And so I stayed with my sister for I want to say 6 months, going through that, with our mom dying and stuff like that, for about 6 months. And then out of nowhere, my dad's like, Francis said you could come home. I'm like, I really don't want to.
Yeah, no.
You know what I'm saying? To be honest with you, I'm, Ken and April, my sister April, and hey, can you guys be a little more quiet, please? Ken and April were good influences. You know what I'm saying? They weren't. My sister's a godsend. She's kind of like my mom, best person, best sister ever. She'd love to hear that. I tell her that all the time anyway. But,
well, you'll have to send her this episode.
well, and I named my kid after her. You know what I'm saying? Julie allowed me to name our last daughter, after my sister. And that's cool because I love April.
I love that. You hit on something there that I think a lot of men still feel, especially men who have gone through severe trauma as a kid, abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. It's easy for us to escape into
It's easier.
drugs, alcohol, and music, right? It allows us to enter a place where we don't have to face the reality of our situation. And the reality is that it was
exactly
imposed upon you. It wasn't anything that you did. But I think
I was almost taught to be that way or something. Like I could make my choices. It's not like every choice I made was bad. I made good choices too. I loved my family. You know what I mean? So my dad's side of the family was really good, and April was really good. But no, I feel like I was taught how to act like that. Does that make sense?
yes.
Like nobody would ever apologize. There was, shut up. Here's some Toys R Us cards. Go get you some toys, type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was no communication at all. So I kind of just learned it and adapted. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So how did you work through that as you got older, especially as you started to build a relationship with Julia and started thinking about kids? I mean, I'm sure there must have been a lot of internal wrestling with, all right, how am I going to be a dad, and how am I going to create a family that I never had, that I never saw modeled?
Yeah. You know what? This is how I say that. This is how I'm going to answer that. Everything that I missed growing up, I was literally raised by everybody around me. That makes sense?
Yeah.
I was raised by everybody around me. What I didn't have, I created it around me. That healed me, basically. I have no depression no more. Rarely do I get angry like I used to. I mean, I used to get really mad. I would fight just to, I would just fight. But no, I was raised by my kids and my wife, accepted for who I was. And they, especially Julie, because she just accepted me for who I was and wouldn't allow me to continue to be that way. She would just personal development. Not that she's the golden, because I would stay up late at night, and I would be producing music and I would do other things. And, I used to go to the gym a lot and I would fight my demons on my own a lot too. But just having the acceptance for who I am kind of helped. And then seeing my kids grow up and, yeah.
So
she's over there smiling.
She's like, man, I'm getting my kudos, man. I'm getting my kudos. Hey, Julie. It's like I'm getting recognized for all this hard work I did.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming, man. I feel better than I ever have in my entire life. I don't ever remember being this happy. And stress-free pretty much. I can still get stressed out, but I know how to confront it and identify what it is and fix it before it causes any kind of real, crazy situation to happen like it used to. Because I didn't used to face anything. I would just go, like, I wouldn't stop and look at it and think, before me and Julie got together. So that's the difference. Just stopping and thinking about everything, overthinking a lot. No doctors, no therapists, no psychiatrists, no medicine. Straight sober. I don't believe in taking medicine. I don't mean to offend anybody who takes medicine to, for whatever reason they take it for. I just don't think that. For me, it numbs me. I'd rather feel it. I'd rather feel the pain. I'd rather go through it and face it than cover it up and use some type of narcotic to, like, slow me down or calm me down or wake me up, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes
I enjoy the freaking toughness of that.
Yeah. You want to feel at the core, you want to feel the good and the bad so that you can really experience joy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can experience gratitude for what you've gone through.
That's the damn truth. How can you know what joy is if you don't know what feeling the opposite is?
Yeah.
Isn't that right, babe?
So I'm thinking about your statement that your family, your kids and your wife raised you. I think a lot of us men think that we have to be this perfect father. And what I've come to realize is that being a dad, being a husband, that is what perfects you. It's not that you have to be perfect dad. It's going through the experience of being a husband and trying to figure out
the journey.
How do we work together as a couple? How do we become one? How do I set aside the angst and the anxiety and the anger that I felt as a kid and trust that this lady in my life has my heart? And I think a lot of times men struggle moving forward because they don't know how to trust. They don't know how to give in. They don't know how to let go. And so they're stuck in the past because they never open their heart to allow somebody like your wife to come in and see the potential in you and create an environment where you can flourish and become the man that she sees in you.
Yeah. She's told me that. She's like, I've always believed in you. I'm like, yeah, that's, why we're still together. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it means like if it's 100% accurate that I feel like they raised me out. I would say that they took part in raising me. So I should say that, because there's that makes more sense. That. Like I grow with them. Like how do you explain that? Like from our first kid, Tommy, who's about to graduate, when he was just a baby, and we're living over here, and it's just me and Julie and this baby. And our cat Chew Mama, she chewed up all the wires to everything, so that we called her Chewy, Siamese cat. But anyway, all the way up to having April, and I feel like I don't know, we're a unit, period. I'm very thankful. We're actually having a conversation, me, Julie, and Kayla, my 13-year-old daughter. We're sitting on the porch the other day having a conversation, just talking, just. Not about anything specific, just kind of, hanging out and talking. And Kayla just started crying out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, man, what's the matter? She's like, I'm just so happy. I'm so lucky to have this family. I about melted. Look at her.
That's awesome.
I'll put her on the spot.
That is such a huge blessing. Yes. I mean, that is such a huge blessing.
I feel successful. I don't need anything else, to be honest, man. I don't need to be rich. I don't need to have Lamborghinis and boats and all this stuff. It'd be nice. I definitely like that.
Yeah.
But if all else fails, I always got them,
Yeah.
And they always have me, period.
You know, it when I listen to you talk about, just being a family unit and how your kids half raise you, I like the idea of my kids half raising me, especially, and I've thought about this a lot because Judy and I had 4 kids and then we adopted 2. And I admittedly was very proud of myself for being a good dad. I felt like I was a good dad. I was trying to be a good dad. I was present. I was involved. I'd sing to my kids. I'd play with my kids. I was their biggest fan, right?
Yeah.
And then we adopted 2 kids at the ages of 8 and 9. And they brought a whole different dynamic in our family that I had to learn how to be a different kind of dad.
Yeah.
They
I can understand that.
revealed, the what they brought revealed the ugly in me, and it revealed the strong and beautiful in me.
Yes.
And I had to look myself in the mirror in those moments when I was not at my best and go, dude, you have to become more than you are today. I had to be raw with
Yeah.
myself. I had to be authentic with myself.
Yeah.
And if
Man.
I wasn't, I could have never have become the father that they needed and that I needed to become.
I'd totally, man. I'd 100% agree with that. That's exactly. And you got a way of just saying things. That is perfectly explained. Like I couldn't explain it like that. That's exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Be
Well,
thankful, because that's bravery right there. I call that. That's what a real man is. Period.
What do you mean by that?
Being able to face who you are, like recognizing I'm not as good as I thought I was, and these new kids are bringing out, things that I didn't even know were there.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And then you decide to face it, and confront that and figure that out and change that. So that's what you mean by raising your kids help raise you.
Yeah.
They made you better. They made you, grow into a better person. And that's what my kids did. Same thing. Yeah. That's remarkable. Really.
Yeah, I think a lot about a conversation that I had with my daughter, Cynthia. She was actually there's a podcast where she and I are talking about it, and the title of the podcast is called "I Let You In," and it's interesting because in that podcast she said, Dad, there were years where it was really tough with the 2 of us. And she goes, I admit I was a large part of that. She goes,
Yeah.
but I would never want to go through that again, but I would not trade what it did to us and what it did for our family.
Yeah. That
And
part.
when
No
when you
regrets, man.
when you can embrace the darkness and move forward together. And sometimes it takes you as a dad to be the leader of that growth. It requires you and your wife to go, you know what? We need to do this as a family. And it's challenging, and it requires all of us to look at each other and with kindness and with charity and understanding and try to figure out, all right, how do we move through this trauma so
Yep.
that we can all become whole?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you keep your kids' trust?
How do you keep their trust, or how do you gain it?
Well, I've never had to gain their trust because I've always just had it. And if I did make mistakes with my kids, I'd always just confront my mistakes to them. They never had to confront it to me, right? So, yeah, how do you keep their trust?
I think you just hit it right there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
If you can
keep their trust by, like, when they do something wrong, right? I've seen it all around me, including in my life growing up, where I would do something wrong and it would be like, it'd be a freaking nightmare.
Yeah.
It'd be a nightmare, right? So then I don't want to tell my dad shit, I don't want to tell them. And if I tell them, it'll be a freaking nightmare again. So it's the reactions. It's your reaction towards their mistakes. Like I learned that kids make mistakes. And not only do kids make mistakes, I make mistakes. Julie makes mistakes. My dad make mistakes still. He's 72 years old. He just ran over a giant log with the lawnmower. And it's like, it's the reaction that you give to people. And that's how you keep their trust. You give them, the reactions can't be angry or violent or vulgar or nasty. People just get scared of you,
Mm.
And that's something I had to learn over time, and especially in the beginning, when me and Julie first got together and had Tommy, and Tommy'd make little mistakes or whatever, and I'd be like, God damn, going crazy. Not crazy, but being my dad. Does that make sense? Like being like how my dad was. I'm like, I'm Southern. Julie's like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Boy needs his butt whooped. And no, never again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels horrible. Period. So that just one way my kids have raised me. And Julie too. Completely changed who I am and like how I believe in raising kids and what discipline really is. And I'm just so grateful for that, because it just feels so bad. How can any parent think that's okay?
Yeah.
I don't understand. So I'm just glad I broke that, because that was just the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. We can choose to break the chain, or we can build on the chain, right?
Yeah.
I had a really good, he's still a really good friend. He was in a very physically abusive family when he was a kid. And um, one time he and I were talking about being a dad, and he said, I promised myself that I would break the chain of abuse.
Yeah.
And he was the gentlest, kindest, most patient man I've ever met. And it became, he was able to become that because of his intentionality, his
Yeah.
drive to make a change in generations to come.
Yeah.
Because
And
you
so
can
do you
you can
think he would still
continue
be
to,
like that without having gone through that?
yeah.
Like the person he is today, he could actually, I mean, this is what I do. I'm actually thankful for all of it. Everything.
Yeah.
I don't have no regrets or blame or anything like that. I'm thankful for all of that. It didn't work, Julie. It didn't work. I'm thankful for all of it, because I wouldn't be who I am today without it. And
Yeah.
maybe I could have been lucky and not had to have gone through that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I did. So there's no what if, I did go through it, and it's helped make me who I am today. I love
love
it.
that.
I'm actually thankful for it. Literally 100%. Wouldn't take
Yeah.
nothing back. Every last terrible situation, I would not take none of it back. Nothing. Not nothing I did. Not anything anybody did to me. Period.
Yeah.
My dad's relationship with Frances. No, I wouldn't tell. I'm not. I have forgiven her. I've forgiven everybody. I feel free and happy, and I'm thankful for any kind of trauma. Literally, violence, everything. I can tell you
I
a
love
million stories, man. I'm thankful for it all.
I love that perspective, because when I hear you say that, it reminds me of a statement my son made, Devin. He said, Dad, I don't have any regrets because the things that I went through have sculpted the man that I am today. And I
Yeah,
like who I am.
yeah.
And I love that, because I think sometimes I look back at my life and it's like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I wish I wouldn't have done that. And I think there's one or two things that
I used to
all of
have
us have,
major
right?
regrets.
But it's like you got to move past that, right?
Well,
And move
you got to
forward.
learn how to think of it. Think about
Yeah,
it. Why were you that? So you got to find out why, and then you got to find out how do you forgive yourself, because that's what forgiveness is. It's not for her or them. It's for yourself. You know, forgive.
yeah. No, that's good, man. Well, dude, I always love the conversations with you. So I want to be respectful of your Monday evening and let you get back to that beautiful family of yours. Is there a last thought that you think is important that we share with the men listening tonight?
don't give up.
Mm.
Don't give up. You know, you can take that how you want. Just don't give up.
I love that. I love that. So, man, I love your perspective. I love your passion for being a dad. I love your perspective. I love the unit that you and your family are, because my family and I feel the same way as you do about your family. I do with mine, because I really feel like we're a unit. In fact, the kids, we were sitting around playing blackjack last night with chips, and it was just fun to watch the interaction between the kids and the competition and the banter. And it's just so much fun. And creating a
Man,
family.
I got to do that. We need a card day. We need to
Yeah, it
do.
was fun. It was good.
We
So,
got the perfect card table right over there.
yeah,
I'm gonna
that's
do
good.
that.
You got to
Hey,
do it, man.
I
So
got some cards right here.
there you go. Let's play.
These are from a memory from back in the day. Yeah, these are from when I got locked up. I still have them as a
That's
reminder.
funny.
A long
That's
time
funny.
ago, man. This is a long
So
time ago.
you'll have to bring them at the next event, and we'll play blackjack.
Dude,
So
I so will. They're brand new. These are so
that's
old.
awesome.
They're like, man, 20 years old. 20,
That's
20.
fun.
Let me see, 20, 20, either 20 or 21 years old. This is before
Yeah,
me and Julie, that's how old these are. And somehow I
that's
still
good.
have them.
Well, that's awesome. So, well, Guy, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me, exploring childhood trauma and moving through it as a man, because there a lot of us are dealing with that, and
Yeah.
we don't create a safe space where we can talk about it and
Yep.
help each other grow. And I appreciate you being open and raw and willing to explore this with me. You
I
guys that are
appreciate you
listening,
hit me up, dude. I love it, man. Anytime,
yeah, it's good. But
any day, preferably
that's
not
awesome.
well, no, there's no day.
You're just like,
any
I just like talking about it. So
any day, bro. Any day, anytime.
that's right.
You know.
So, well, thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you guys tapping in, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, podcast channels. Thank you so much for joining me every week. Please go out, like, share, and subscribe. Share this with somebody that you think it might be helpful to. And we will check you same time, same bad channel just next week. See ya.
Peace.